Hey YouTubies, I'm going to talk about the massacre of the Mound Builders and the evidence cited for it in an old pioneer book. After my paranormal experience in Volo, Illinois, I began a 3.5 year accounting research of the area, and I eventually stumbled into an extensive written history about what they call historical Indians, and that would be the people that white settlers found when they came to the area, and the people that were no longer present, known as the Mound Builders. My understanding is that the historical Indians at the time did not claim ownership of those mounds and did not claim that their people built it. Now, everything is claimed. And there is, in my opinion, no proper investigation, specifically when there is evidence that there were red-haired people all along the Mississippian culture and out at Lovelock Cave and other places, and into Peru and other places that were bred out or massacred. I have shown in other videos shrunken heads of red-haired people that were found out in Peru, stories of massacres out in Nevada, and a red-haired effigy of a woman found at the Etowah Mounds in Georgia. But this is the first time I have come across evidence of the massacre of the Mound Builders. And this one is in Lake County in Antioch, Illinois. And it was written about in the 1800s. I'm going to read what it says. At a place about 3 miles west of the village of Antioch, on the promontory formed by the Pistaki Lakes and connected with the mainland by a narrow neck of land, is a fortification and some conical-shaped mounds extending about 1/2 a mile in length. Most of the circular mounds contain bodies or ashes, some of them but a single skeleton in each, while others have hundreds of all ages and sexes thrown promiscuously, laying in a heap, and covered with earth. They all bear the tokens of slaughter, the skulls being crushed or perforated or otherwise denoting the result of a bloody massacre. The fortification at the north end in the form of a semicircle, a line of embankment about 60 rods long, running parallel with and on the brow of the hill, while the semicircle is formed by conical-shaped mounds, placed at such distances apart as would allow ready ingress and egress and defending the position. The embankment was planned and built with as much regularity as the most skillful engineer would be capable of at the present day. Its position completely guards the entrance by way of the neck of the land and shows great judgment and military tact in the one who selected it. Okay, so this was written about by a man named John J. Halsey in his book History of Lake County. And he continues on to talk about these mound builders and the things that they were finding. They were finding all kind of stone implements and tools just laying everywhere. And at the time in Lake County, there were two tribes mainly. It was the Potawatomi and the Ho-Chunk. And they left the area peacefully. There was no warfare with the cavalry and the Native Americans in Lake County. In fact, those tribes have reservations north in Wisconsin, and they thrive today with their casinos. So there's no reason that these implements and stone artifacts should have been all over the place if it belonged to them. because they were able to pack up and walk up peacefully into Wisconsin, if you know the history of this area. So here is the first time I'm finding written evidence that mound builders were building these mounds and fortifications as a defense, that there was extensive warfare, and they were slaughtered off because they found evidence of warfare on all of the tribe members, no matter the age or the gender, and their bodies were put in these mounds. There is also stories in Lake Zurich of a massacre. So if you look at the map between Lake Zurich and Antioch, Volo, Illinois is smack in the middle, and that is the location of the ghost of the Civil War soldier that got me involved in his story and the history of the area and led me down this path. So here is the first time I am finding evidence of what happened to these mound builders. Now I'm going to point something out. If you're familiar with the documentary Skeletons in the Cupboard that has to do with the redheads in New Zealand, you'll know that they were forced out and there was warfare, and a lot of them were killed and whatever remained left. And then we have evidence of red-haired people all in Peru, in Nevada, all up and down the Mississippian cultures. Mound building was done extensively by Europeans. I've already shown in my work that the Amazons over 12,000 years ago were using mounds to bury and honor their Amazon warriors who died. And if you look at the mounds over in Europe, they're the same shape and form as to what we have in the Americas. So here is some evidence of what happened to these people. And if you get my book called Dead Soldiers, Vintage and Automobiles, it's the whole history of Lake County going back to Paleo Indians and the fact that the area was covered by water. There's a fossil gap. You're going to get a pretty good idea. And there's also mention of mounds that were looked at up in Wisconsin by a cousin of this ghost, interestingly, who wrote a book about it. And he says also that they're not really related to the historical Indians that were there at the time. And they couldn't find a connection. And other writers have said that as well, that they didn't claim these mounds. They didn't have evidence of these mounds being associated with these tribes, but they had found evidence of extensive warfare and artifacts from tribes that were just thrown all over the land. So if it did belong to Ho-Chunk and Winnebago, well, they call them Winnebago back then, they're Ho-Chunk, they preferred the name Ho-Chunk, and the Potawatomi, there's no reason that those artifacts should have been strewn all over the land, because they were allowed to leave peacefully up into Wisconsin. So it's my opinion that it belonged to the people that were murdered in warfare. And as I said before, there was a red-haired woman effigy pulled out of a mound in Etowah Mounds in Georgia, along with that of a Siberian dark-haired man. So we know from the New Zealand Skeletons in the Cupboard that these red-haired people were interbreeding with the Polynesian people to keep the peace or at warfare, which is probably what they did when they got here, which is what Sarah Winnemucca said her tribe was trying to do, but it didn't work out, and they went to war and exterminated over 2,400 red-haired people. So get the book, Dead Soldiers, Vintage and Automobiles, and you will get a very good read about a lot of things. And this is just a taste of what's to come. Thank you.